Hi guys, so in this tutorial we're going to be building on our rigging skills, creating a slightly more complex rig this time. So in previous weeks we've looked at creating controllers with NURB circles, we've looked at parenting, we've looked at constraints, we've looked at creating joints and bones for our character. We're going to be adding to this, learning new skills. We're going to be looking at IK handles, which is something we'll look at going forward. And we're going to be looking at skinning our character, which is attaching the character or the character mesh to the bones. So I'm going to click on this create joint tool and we'll have a little bit of a closer look at these joints and what they're actually doing. So I'm just going to click to create the first joint, click to create the second. So I'm creating a bit of a leg here. So next I'm going to create the lower leg and going down to the ankle and a foot. So as you can see, we've got these joints which are connected by bones, and the bones are kind of shaped like arrows, and that's to show the direction of the leg. If you hit enter, that finishes the joint chain. Okay. So if I select the top of the leg, it selects the leg the whole way down. If I select the next leg, it selects the lower part of the leg and the foot. And if I select the foot, it just selects the foot because they're all parented to each other. The arrow of the bone kind of shows the direction that the chain of the bones are going in. So it's going this way downwards. So and by that I mean if I move this bone, it moves the lower leg and the foot, and if I move the lower leg from the knee, it moves the lower leg and the foot, and if I move the foot, well, it just moves the foot and the toes. So they go in a chain, so it's very important that we start out with legs and work our way down. If we were to build them going the other way, this wouldn't really make any sense as a leg. When we try to move the leg up, obviously it's going the wrong way, so it wouldn't really be possible. You know, if we try with this one, if we want the character to make us to step forward, we can just rotate that and rotate the leg and rotate the foot. This way the parenting just doesn't work. We can't make the character step forward with this. So it's important that we are setting things up so they're going the right direction. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to create a leg that goes down through the character. Now, what we're going to need to do before we start creating these joints in the character, we want to turn on X-ray joints. So that's going to allow us to see the joints running through the character through the mesh. So we're going to start placing joints. The other thing we're going to turn on is up here, you've got these magnet options. These are snapping options. You might not see them. They're kind of buried in this menu. So if you go through, you can kind of expand the menu until you find them. I'm going to turn on snap to projected center, and that's going to make placing the bones a little bit more easy. It will try and snap the bones to the center of the character. So I'm going to start here at the top. I'm going to create the hip joint, and then I'm going to create a joint right at the top of the thigh, and you can see they should hopefully be snapping to the center of the character. And then I'm going to create a joint at the knee. That looks fine. And then a joint down at the ankle. Now, if when you're placing them, they're kind of going in some weird place, that's okay. We can move them around after the fact and make sure they're all properly lined up. And the last joint I'm going to create is at the toe. And I'm just going to enter. To finish that chain. I'm mostly happy with the position. I want the knee a bit further forward, because our knees tend to actually rotate from the front of the knee. That's where the ball of the joint actually is, not towards the back. Now, if I just move this, you'll see that I'm also moving the foot. which, I mean, I could move it and then go down and then fix the foot. However, it's a bit easier to hold down D when you move, and that will allow you to move this joint individually without affecting the joints further down the chain. Okay. I think my ankle could be a little bit higher up. It's worth kind of really zooming around because of the X-ray thing, because they're in the middle of the joints. It can be a bit difficult to figure out exactly where things are. So kind of rotating the camera allows you to see, oh yeah, it's a little bit, maybe a little bit off there. Make sure that that joint's right in the middle of the ankle, where the ankle actually rotates from. Okay, that looks fine to me. Again, could spend a lot longer lining things up. It really depends on how well it's managed to snap to the middle. Oh, that's actually too far. Okay, so we could mirror these to the other side. Or we could just draw the bones again. I find it easier just to duplicate. We can go into skeleton and look at mirroring joints. I'm not going to do that for now because I don't want to overwhelm you with information. The easiest way is just to select the joints at the top of the leg, not the hip, but the joints at the top of the leg, and Command D. And you can see that I've duplicated that. And because I duplicated from the top of the leg, it's still parented to that hip joint. Okay. That should look something like that. And we can just kind of move the ones lower down till they roughly mirror. Again, for this rig, it's not really that important that things are exactly mirrored. As long as they're roughly in the right place, we'll be all right. I actually think the character isn't symmetrical. This side's actually got more of a knee. I'm actually going to lift that up a little bit more on this side. Maybe push it out a little bit. Maybe I will do the same on the other one, to be honest. I think the knee really is a bit higher up, somewhere there. Okay, that will do. Okay, so now I've created the legs. I then need to create the spine. So we could really create as many segments going up. There is a kind of creative side to rigging in that, there's no reason why we couldn't put bones in the tree and like create everything and make everything moving. We're not going to do that, but there's multiple ways you could rig this character. I'm just going to do a very simple spine going up through the rock because that's really all I need. I just want him to be able to move the spine. So I'm just going to click on the create joint tool again. You can click that through here as well. And I'm going to click, maybe we'll actually start a bit further down. I'm going to start here and I'm going to click to here to create the top of the spine. You could create more segments. I'm going to keep this quite simple. I only really need a few movements here, but you could create more if you wanted. Right, so I've got this spine. I'm going to parent this to the hips. So with parenting, you select the child first. We want this to follow the hips, so this is going to be the child, because when we want it to move the hips, we want the spine to move. So we want this to be a child. So we're going to select that first as the child, then select the hips, and then just click P. And you can see that by the bone, you can see it's going upwards. It's a child. The spine is now a child of the hips. Okay, cool. So the next thing, so you see we've got the joints now in here, and you can kind of go through and you can select different pieces. And good practice would be to go ahead and rename all of these: lower leg, left leg, etc., and just like properly name all these. I'm not going to do that for this. It's not for a simple character. This is not really necessary, but it is good practice to do that. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at IK handles. So for this, it's a little bit important that we understand how we're going to be animating the character. So at the moment, the way our legs are set up is they're set up, as we've spoken about, each joint is parented to the other in a chain. So the skeleton currently isn't attached to the mesh. So when I move the skeleton, nothing's going to happen. The character's leg is going to stay in position, but you'll get an idea about how I could animate a walk cycle or something. You can make the character step forward and then move his leg forward and then you would arrange his hip, and then you could create a keyframe, and etc, etc, etc. It's quite a tedious way to animate legs this way, because we're having to rotate this, then we have to rotate this, and then we have to rotate this. The easier way is using something called an IK handle. So an IK handle, this is animating forward, so I'm moving this, and then having to move this, and then having to move this in a chain going forward. For legs, and for other things as well, but particularly for legs, it's really helpful to do what's called inverse kinematics. So that kind of reverses the power of the chain. So rather than animating from up here and working our way down, we can move the ankle, and everything else will follow around. And it's kind of easier to show you what that looks like by creating an IK handle than to explain it. But an IK handle, it's inverse kinematics as opposed to, so it's IK, inverse kinematics, rather than FK, forward kinematics. Again, it sounds very complicated, but once you see what it does, you'll get a better idea. So next to the create joint tool, we've got create IK handle. I'm going to click on that. And if I go down to this joint, find out what's going on. So this is my leg on the left hand side. I am going to click on the tool, and then I'm going to click on my joint 6, which is that leg. Again, it might not be that same joint number for you, so just make sure that you've found the top. You've got the leg selected starting at the top. And what I'm going to do now, I've got that leg selected and I've got the IK tool selected. I'm just going to click on the bottom ankle, and you can see I've created an IK handle. You can see that I'm moving it from the ankle, and everything else is moving along with it. So this is IK, this is inverse. So it's doing the opposite, it's animating the opposite way as opposed to working your way down. And for legs in particular, that's really useful. So we're going to have IK handles on both our legs. So once again, I'm going to find this leg. So starting at joint 10 for me, I've got that selected. I'm going to click on the tool, click on joint 10, and click on the ankle. So now I've got 2 IK handles. That will help with my animation. So that's IK handles. We're also going to need controllers. Now, it doesn't really matter which order you do this in. We could skin the character to the skeleton and then add the controllers, or add the controllers now. I might do the skinning first. So to do that, we're going to select all of our joints. And to do that, you just click on the hip, because clicking on the hip is going to make everything selected, if that makes sense. Because everything, you can see everything is parented to the hip. Yeah, the spine is parented, the legs are parented, everything's coming out of the hip. So just clicking on the hip will select everything. So I've got the joint selected, then we'll shift, select the rock monster to select both, and we'll go to skin, bind skin. Something has gone wrong there. Oh no, it seems to have actually worked. I'm not sure what that error message was, but everything seems to have worked. So you can see it's worked because it's all changed color, which shows that it's been bound. And if I move the IK handle, you can see now we're getting our character attached to the skeleton. And let's just check. So if we move the spine, check that it's all working. That's all fine. You want to be generally, when you're just testing that it's working, you want to be rotating these joints. Don't be scaling them or moving them, just rotate them at this stage. Okay, so the next thing we're going to add is controllers. So controllers are those like strings on the puppet. They're what you're going to be animating. You won't be animating the bones, you won't be animating the IK handles, you will be animating the curves or the controllers. Now you can use anything for controllers. You could use a locator. I think the circles work well. They're easy to select. So they're just objects. They'll be bound to our bones so that we can move them around. So this is going to be my first controller. This is going to be a foot controller. I might, before I start this, rename some of this stuff just to make it a little bit easier. when it comes to connecting everything. So this IK handle, this is my left leg, this is my right leg, this controller, this is going to be for my left leg. Pop it over there, and I'll also rename some of the joints. So hip, if I go into it, this is my left leg. I'm not going to rename all the joints, but right leg. But it can just be helpful to have some of these things named, just so that it's kind of a little bit more organized. Right, we'll go back to the foot controller. So this is going to be my leg controller. So this is going to control the leg. I'm going to make it, I'm actually going to have it around his ankle, something like that. You could make it go around the foot. There's lots of different ways that you could make it, but I'm just going to have it kind of snapped around the ankle. I'm going to select my rock monster. I'm just going to turn him off for now. So just hide the geometry, H to hide, while I snap everything. So I'm going to select my left leg control, and I'm just going to snap it to the ankle where the IK handle is. So I'm actually going to turn off this snapping, and I'm going to hold down V on the move tool, and just, now it snaps to that thing. I don't have to spend ages trying to shift it around. Make it a tiny bit smaller. I'm going to duplicate it, hit V, go to the move tool, hold down V, and snap it to the other one. And I'm going to change the name of this to right leg control. Now we need a few other controls. We're going to need a hip control. Let's just duplicate this circle again. This time we're going to scale it up a bit. Hold down V. We'll go to the move tool first. Hold down V, snap it. So this is my hip control. It's very important that all these controllers are named, otherwise you will end up getting confused. And we're going to give ourselves a spine control as well. Let me just change the color again because you can't really see the bones very well. So V, let's duplicate it, V, snap it. And I could add a controller up here. I don't really need one, because really when this is attached, it's going to control the direction of this bone. So having a controller up there will be a bit pointless. And I'm actually going to have a last controller. This is going to be called the global controller, and all the other controllers are going to be attached to it. It's going to be on the floor, and it's going to, if everything's parented to this, it's going to mean I can move the character around without having to move all the body parts individually, because everything can be attached to this global control. Again, I'll kind of show you how it works when we get to that point. Global control. Okay, now we've got to start attaching these to the bones. Again, we don't really need to worry about the mesh at this stage, so I'm just going to leave it hidden. It kind of makes it easier to actually have it out of the way. So let's start with the hip, maybe. Okay, so we're going to select the controller. We're going to shift select the actual hip. Oh, let's zoom in. And if I use the plus and minus keys, I can make that that gizmo really small, and go on the selection tool and select the hip a bit more easily. And we're going to use a parent constraint. So remember to select the circle first, the controller first, then the hip. The hip will select everything because everything is parented to the hip. That's fine. And just go constrain, parent. And now, just to test it, so that gives me a bit smaller with the plus key. If I move it around, it's attached. Next, let's attach this spine control to the spine. So we can shift select the spine. That's what it should look like. White controller, green if you've selected in the right order. Constrain, parent. And now you can see if I move the hip, it's going to keep that in place, and the spine's going to be held in place. That's all good. And next, so these leg controls, these are not going to be attached to the joints. Don't attach them to the joints. They're attached to the IK handles. So you can see that the icon is different. The joints are just joints on their own, 2 joints, whereas the other joints, the IK handles, they have the little purple kind of elastic band or string, like the string in the viewport, kind of attached to them, which just kind of, that isn't doing anything, it's just showing that it's an IK handle. So we are going to click on the left leg control. You can do it through the viewport or in the outliner, and hold down Control and Command, or just Control if you're on Windows, and go Constrain Parent, and that should be working. And let's do the same with the right leg. Constrain Parent. That's attached. So now we have controls. So the next thing, again, this is quite simple controls. We could add more, but we could add knee controls and foot controls. But for now, we've got legs, we've got the hip, we've got the spine, and we've got the global control. So we need to attach these to each other. So if I turn the rock monster back on and I rotate the hip control, you can see that when I try to make him lean forward, yes, he's kind of leaning forward, but you can see this joint isn't moving because it's kind of being held in place by this other controller. So what we actually want is we want this controller to follow this controller. We want there to be a parent relationship between these, parent-child relationship between these controllers. We want this, this controller to be a child of this. So select the child first, shift select the parent, and hit P. And now, when I rotate, it's following along, and that works nicely. The other thing we want is we want to be able to move the global control and have everything follow. So nothing's following at the moment. So we need to select the hip control and select, so it's going to be a child of the global control, and hit P. And now they're following along, but the feet also need to be attached to the global control. So we're going to select both of the feet controls and then finally select the global control and hit P. So we're just using parenting to create these relationships, just normal parenting, not constraints, just parenting to create these relationships between the different controllers. Whereas we're using constraints to attach things to the bones. And that just keeps using these two separate systems just allows everything to stay organized. Okay, we have got a simple rig. We've got the legs moving, and yeah, it's a little bit janky. Yeah, we could have more controls, like we could have foot controls, but this is enough to create a bit of a basic walk cycle. So let's go over quickly creating a walk cycle. With this one, I really want you to consider the character, consider the weight of the character, consider movement. The last one, what's the scale of the character? If it's a really big character, it might move a bit slower. So think about the actual character, think about the movement. So the last walk cycle we used 30 frames. But this one, I might have a bit longer, perhaps we'll use 50 frames. So one of the first things you want to do with animation is just click on the animation preferences and just make sure it's not set to play every frame. So we got to animation preferences by clicking on the little orange man. Just click on that, bring up this option box, make sure it's set to 24 time playing once 24 times, if that makes sense. If you put play every frame as opposed to 24 FPS, play every frame will just play every frame as fast as it can. We don't need that. We want to see it in proper real time. So 24 frames per second, save. And then we can start thinking about animating this character. I'm just going to save this because I'm going to come back to this at a later point. So let's set this up. So just as before, So we're going to select the first controller, move it forward to create the first contact pose. Select the back controller. We're getting a bit of some weird deformations, but that'll be fine. I'm going to use the hip controller just to push it down a bit till the knees start bending, till there's weight on the feet. And that's going to be my first concept pose. So I'm going to select the controls. Make sure you're selecting the controls. We don't even need to see bones. Let's hide the bones. So turn off the X-ray mode. Maybe even, yeah, just hide them. And we can hide the IK handles as well for now. So now that those things are hidden, when we select, you can see we are selecting the character mesh. We don't really want to be selecting the mesh. We just want to be selecting the controllers. If I go through these menus, just similar to how I found the snapping controls, there is another option here. This shows what's actually selectable in the scene. So this is mesh. We'll turn that off, and that makes mesh not selectable. So now we can't select mesh. So that would be quite useful. We don't need to be selecting the mesh. We just want to select the controllers. So for this is quite good. So we can select all the controllers, and we can just hit S. Okay. Now we want the first and last frames to be the same, so I'm going to select the end and select and for frame 50 and create another keyframe so that the character stays in place. And then in the middle, frame 25, I'm going to swap the pose, the contact pose. So I'm going to put this leg forward. I'm also going to turn auto keying on, which means I don't have to click, which means I can stop clicking S all the time and just move the character. You have to, if you're going to use auto keying, you have to have created a keyframe already. So you have to have hit S at least once on each controller for auto keying to work. But now if I move it around, it'll automatically create a keyframe. So what you should end up with is the classic slidey pose like this. So what we need to make this look good is we need those passing poses. So in between frames 25, somewhere in the middle, again, you don't have to be super precise where you need that passing pose. So as this foot comes forward, it needs to lift off the ground somewhere around here-ish. It can lift off the ground. I might change the angle of the leg a tiny bit. And what I might also do, you can see a keyframe is automatically being created. Grab that hip control and push it up a little bit. Because actually as we lift that leg off the floor, we push our hip up a little bit and we create this up and down motion. Now I don't have a keyframe at frame 25, so I'm going to undo, make sure there's a keyframe for the hip at frame 25 before I continue. Go back to frame 13 and then push up. So you can see now you're getting that hip going up. And already that's looking better. So he lifts it up and plants his foot down. Make sure that foot plants down. I don't know why that keyframe wasn't there. And in between these two, let's lift up the hip control. And let's grab that foot. Let's have it lift off the ground. So now we've got our really basic walk cycle. So there's lots more that you could do at this point. We could use that spine control to create something more interesting. So using rotate, not scale. Let's set keyframe at frame 25. And then somewhere in the middle, we could perhaps have it lean backwards or something. So it kind of wobbles a bit. Let's do the same here, but perhaps the other direction. So again, you could really play around with this and make this a lot more interesting. Again, if we wanted to update this rig, I think foot controls could help. For example, stop the clipping of the leg coming through the floor. There's a lot more we could do to kind of mess around with him to make him look a lot better. But we've got a bit more of a complex rig. We've looked at skinning, we've looked at IK handles, and we've really started to begin to build up our knowledge of rigging. So that brings the tutorial to an end. Have a go, play around with it, make sure you understand the concepts so that you're ready to kind of use this knowledge in creating your own rigs.